大谷翔平が自ら配球の主導権を握った瞬間、ドジャースの若き捕手ダルトン・ラッシングとの間で何が起きていたのでしょうか。ここからはその様子を字幕付きでご紹介します。
The weekly guest is brought to you by 8 Sleep, which of course I miss when I'm on the road. David Ross is here in Cincinnati with me, longtime catcher, manager, served as an analyst, serving as an analyst on ESPN games. Rossi and I, part of the broadcast on Wednesday night, we have the Phillies and the Reds. Rossi, how you doing?
What's going on, Buster? Thanks for having me on, buddy.
Yeah, it feels weird to like ask you how it's going because it's been fun this year working broadcasts with you, learning from you as I always do, trading stories. This year, as part of the 10th anniversary celebration of the Cubs winning the World Series in 2016, you've been doing these lovable reunion podcasts with Anthony Rizzo. You get together with folks on that team and you tell stories. And I guarantee you there's been one or two that has just shocked you as people begin to reveal themselves of what happened 10 years ago. Give me an example of one that surprised you.
Yeah, it's been so fun. I mean, I think there's so many, one that we just released one with Hayward in the speech on Tuesday, and he said,
Can I say I'll set it up. I'll set that up. What happened was, of course, you guys are tied. And then there's a rain delay in Game 7 of the World Series in Cleveland, and Jason Hayward famously gets the team together and makes a speech. So go ahead.
So he comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, everybody, I want all players only in the weight room right now." And I thought he was just informing me. Well, he told me he was asking me that or telling me, but like if it was a bad idea, I would tell him no. So he came to me first and it made me laugh. I was like, "Bro, he's got such leadership skills that they just came out in that moment, and he's not a talker, he's not a vocal guy, but when he says something it carries some weight." So he was kind of coming to me. I thought he was just telling me that's what we're doing, and he came on the podcast. He goes, "I said it to you because I knew if you thought it was a bad idea, I would tell him no." I was like, "Thank God I didn't know that," because there's no telling what I would have said. And the other one is Mike Montgomery, who closed out Game 7 of the World Series. We had Aroldis Chapman, obviously, went and gave up the big homer to Rajai Davis, gets us all the way through the ninth after all that turmoil in the eighth. And, CJ Edwards comes in, can't finish, can't wrap up the inning. And Mike Montgomery comes in to get the last out, and he throws 2 breaking balls. Well, he tells us his biggest struggle coming up through the minor leagues was throwing his breaking ball. And the fact that it came around that he was throwing his least confident pitch for him to land for a strike in that moment blew all our minds, that was his biggest struggle coming up through the minor leagues and even in the big leagues at times. And, thank God we didn't know that in the moment, and Miggy Montero called the breaking ball. So, some really good stories have come out of that, man. We're having so much fun doing the pod. It's gotten so much traction. We got a live show Thursday in Chicago for our reunion this following Thursday, the 16th, and we can't wait, man. We're getting everybody together, and Bill Murray's going to be there. We got some surprise guests. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Now, there have been a lot of baseball champions in history, but my sense is that they're sometimes, occasionally you'll have a team where there's this unique relationship between the city and the players. It's something special. I think the '86 Mets have that, right? That group of players, you can feel that, and you guys have that. When you're doing these shows, what's that like? The connection with the crowd?
Well, it feels like you're in the locker room again, right? Like, I'm career 220 hitter, backup catcher, 95% of my career. And I walk into a restaurant, those people treat me like I'm Michael Jordan in Chicago. It's hilarious to me, but I'm so thankful for that city and the way they connected with us. I'm sure you remember the '04 Red Sox, and I think they've got a lot of that in Boston. And when in 13, when we won in Boston, you were connected because of the marathon bombing that happened in 2013 and how connected you feel to a city. But Chicago is very unique in the way that people love us. We called it the Lovable Reunion for that reason. We used to be the Lovable Losers, and now it's a lot of people can check that box for their memories in Chicago and having won a championship. So I'm very proud to be a part of that special group. But the podcast has been like we're back in the locker room telling stories. My mom said the other day, I asked her some feedback, and she said, "I love it. I love it. You're so great, son, but you've got a dirty mouth. Can you cuss a little bit less?" And so I'm trying not to drop any more F-bombs on mom's on the podcast for mom.
Is it true? I mean, the old cliche that we say every time, quarterback wins a Super Bowl, guy wins an NBA championship, somebody's a part of a team that wins a World Series, that person never has to buy a beer again in the city. You
Yeah,
mentioned about going into a bar.
I tell you what, like I said, those people treat us so well. I don't think I pay for a meal, a drink. I don't pay for much in that city. So, it's just the people are so great to us. I got a standing ovation. A good friend of mine runs Chicago Cut downtown, Chicago, this amazing steakhouse on the river. And I walked in there and got a standing ovation with my family. Like,
Oh
what? It
my
was just,
God.
it was wild. It was wild.
Well, and that's funny too because you're someone. I remember talking to you, Rossi, when in various teams. Specifically, I have a memory of you having a locker next to Brian McCann, and the Braves, or when you were with the Braves, and the way you talk about your career, and then for you to get that response, I get the feeling that happens to you, and you're like, what is going on?
Oh, man, again, like, if you're in the league long enough, you know how hard it is, and everybody's got a role, right? And I have my role, and I try to be the best at my role, but being around guys like Brian McCann, who showed me like, he was such a good teammate, he lifted everybody up, he was such a positive person also with, winning all the silver sluggers, I think it's 6 silver sluggers, 6 or 7 all-star games, like, it just is an amazing human on top of that. So he taught me a lot about how to treat your teammates and lift guys up and how important that is and making people feel good around it. So, but yeah, when these things happen to me, it's just I'm so thankful. Like it's more of a reflection of the people around me than myself, I feel like. But they lift me up and carry me off the field like game 7. And like who does that happen to? Like that should happen like to the Jeters, like that shouldn't happen to the backup catcher from Tallahassee, Florida, who hit 220 for his career. But some great things have happened to me. I'm very blessed and thankful for that. And now I get to work with, Hall of Famers like you and Kirkshin and Bravy and all the boys, Boog, you guys are so great to me and help me continue my baseball career on a different level, in this environment we get to work in for ESPN. It's just so much fun, and I enjoy being around the game.
All right, let's get to what's going on in the field now. The conversation that coming into the year was who's could be the biggest threat to the Dodgers. The preeminence, and as we sit here today, that they haven't gotten anything from Blake Snell. Edwin Diaz, has been out pretty much all the year. Kyle Tucker really hasn't hit for them, although their signs lately they're starting to turn it on a little bit, and they're on a 105 win pace. And so the question lingers in baseball: who could be the biggest threat to the Dodgers? Rossi, I think the Philadelphia Phillies are that team. Who do you
I
think?
like I like where you're at. The Phillies, they're the bottom of that line. Dave Dombrowski's gonna go out and do something, but the Atlanta Braves have impressed me, new manager, they've got some young pitching that has stepped up. Their bullpen's been really solid. I just feel like up and down the lineup, they're really deep. I think the Yankees have the starting pitching when Judge and Stanton get back and they get a little depth, and I'm sure they'll make some moves as well. But the Atlanta Braves for me are the ones that they're good, man, and we'll see. We'll see how this season plays out. We're just past the halfway point, almost to the All-Star break, but I've been impressed with the Atlanta Braves. They're closest to me, and I follow them and probably the Cubs the most, just because they're on TV the most.
Vladimir Guerrero, a shocking first half, 689 OPS. He has 4 home runs after hitting 8 home runs last October and dominating. And Rossi, he made a decision earlier this week. He backed out of the All-Star game. What was presented publicly was that he has a sore back, and that may well be the case. I don't really know what his physical state is, but and there have been times in the past when players have backed out of the All-Star game, and I kind of roll my eyes like, come on, like, show up. And maybe it was a bother. I think this actually was a sign of respect from Vladdy to the game that he backed out. And I actually thought this was a cool thing that he did because he's trying to give the stage to other first basemen who he might think are more worthy than he is this year.
They deserve it, and he recognizes that. I mean, he's been around the game so long with his dad playing, and he's got such a good feel for, people around the game. You saw, I just love the thing with him and Bo Bichette the other night when Bo goes back for the first time to Toronto. I was impressed with that. You get a lot of criticism. His stats doesn't really reflect the all-star status, I would say, that probably is deserved, and no knock on him. He's a great player. But I think he recognized that and looks at other guys. It's like, you know what? I'm gonna bow. I don't know this, but I thought it was a good thing that he said, you know what? I'm gonna go have my all-star break, make sure my body's completely healthy for the second half, and give it to some of these guys that may be more deserving statistically. There we go. That's the word I'm trying to say. And too, like you gotta love fans vote in some of their favorite players, and I think that's part of it. And he's definitely one of the stars of our game, and a guy that plays the game with a lot of fun and a smile. And I think he recognizes that the fans have his back, and especially in Toronto. But he, I'm not happy he's not going to be there, but he's giving other people an opportunity. I think that's great for our game.
Any theories from afar? I'm in the same position you are. I'm not around the team every single day, but I see a player who's just grinding and just grinding and grinding and grinding and trying to find a swing. And it's the biggest surprise in baseball to me, his struggles in the first half.
Yeah, you never know how. I was lucky enough to be a part of 2 World Series, and only one of them did I have to come back after I retired after the 16. But when I came back after, and I didn't play every day, but I came back after 13, your body just, you start to, I remember going to the weight room one day and hopping on the treadmill and going to start my process back, taking a couple weeks off. And I was getting ready, warming up on the treadmill. I was on the treadmill for 2 minutes, Buster, and I just left the gym. I just wasn't ready to get back. And so sometimes just grinding that all the way to a game 7 in that environment that you're in. The off season's a little bit different, and it looks like he's just trying to he's definitely grinding and trying to find his swing. He's got so much power. He's had it his whole career. He's got 4 home runs. That's not like him. But I wouldn't be surprised if his second half is back to where he normally is.
Zack Wheeler pitches a dominant game on
Man.
Tuesday night here in Cincinnati. And after the game, he was asked about not being named the All-Star team. You could tell he's frustrated by it. Rossi, I don't think it's that complicated. Just line up the guys that you think are the most, most deserving to be on the team, and don't get into this whole thing of who can pitch on Sunday, who's going to pitch Sunday and who might not be eligible to pitch. If someone's worthy of being on that team, just put them on the team, and then just go down the line until you get a group of pitchers who are able to pitch on Tuesday.
100%. I'm on board with you. Like it should just go down. And even if you can't pitch, being recognized as an all-star one is such a great status. The end of your career, guys that are approaching the Hall of Fame, and some of those stats that you want on your resume on the back of your baseball card for the rest of your life. It's a big deal. And besides, it's not about money, but guys have bonuses and these different things. Like there's just a status, and the all-star, I never got a chance to be an all-star. And I got to do, when I retired working with you guys, I got to do my first all-star game for TV in Miami. And what a cool event and environment to be around. That, it reminds me a lot of the WBC when you're talking about just stars and status everywhere, and the fandom, and just how much fun that is. And so anybody that doesn't get to take part in that has earned it, which Wheeler has, is just it's a miss. It's a swing and miss for MLB. And hopefully, we have a lot of guys that bow out, and we still got, a week or so before the actual game, and guys come up with little injuries. But I'm hoping and that he's getting his recognition, able to kind of slide in there.
Dalton Rushing famously butted heads with Shohei Ohtani a couple starts ago, and Ohtani wound up basically taking over the pitch calling. And Dave Roberts came out the other day before their second start, or their first start together after that incident. He said in so many words that Dalton Rushing is learning about being a servant to the pitcher. And as someone who covered the sport, I thought, yeah, that's perfect. That's a perfect description. But you know more about than I ever would.
It's a servant
what's Dave
mentality.
Roberts talking about?
It's a servant mentality. One of the things that I used to tell people, what's the most important thing about catching? And everybody wants to say receiving or, throwing, blocking, all this stuff, game calling. Uh, it's caring. It's caring about the other guy more than yourself. You've got to get 27 outs as a catcher and you get 4 at bats. And when you don't have that servant mentality back behind the plate, it just becomes a little more selfish. You're not locked in. Maybe you're having an 0 for day at the plate and you're more caught up than that. Dave's exactly right. It's a servant mentality position. It's not about you, as we like to say on the pod. And, I think Dalton is learning some hard lessons. What a great player, talent he is. You can tell how good he is. Man, I saw him throw somebody out the other night. He can turn the baseball around. He can really hit. A good young player, but like us all in different areas, we've got learning to do and we've got growth that has to happen when you get to the major leagues. And I think that's just one of those moments that Dave's talking about. I talked to Dave when we did a Dodger game. We did Dodgers Rays, and he couldn't have said enough good things about the young man. But again, we all learn, and I think some of these learning moments when how much spotlight's on the Dodgers and that group, especially when you're talking about Shohei Ohtani, nobody bucks the big boy. So he's learning, but it's a good lesson to learn and having to answer questions about.
So a pitcher you did that famously for was Jon Lester. How did you do that? Because as you know, I mean, better than I do, Jon Lester was always viewed as someone, great, talented left-hander, but temperamental on the mound, would sometimes get into with the umpire, would get frustrated over close calls. How did you do that?
Well, I mean, it kind of goes back some of the first times I caught him, there was a moment, he shook to a pitch, and I think a lot of the times you have to show your pitcher you care, and he gave up a big double for a run in one of our starts one of his starts that I was catching, and I came in, was throwing my catching gear and all that stuff underneath in Boston, saying a lot of bad words, and he comes down and he's like, What?" I'm like, and I told him all the reasons he shouldn't have shook to that pitch in my mind. So I think that just builds a little bit of trust in him, and knowing that I did my homework, I know what I'm doing. You have to kind of prove that a little bit and the reasons why you're game calling or you may have called for a certain pitch, because there's a method to the madness for, 95% of the catchers. And I just had to show him that. And it was a lot of like trial and error. You get to know somebody off the field. I think one of the most important things pitchers and catchers can do is just go to dinner, go out, have a beer outside of the game and get to know how they tick. I knew how to push John's buttons. I knew how to calm him down and ramp him up. And he's one of the most fierce competitors I've ever been around. And so just having a feel for who he was as a person really helped me out a lot. But we definitely had our battles. I called it's the big brother, little brother type mentality. I care just as much about his start as he does. And I used to tell him, I said, John, if you suck, they pinch hit for me. I don't get to play all 9 innings. So it's really important that you're really good and we're winning the game, because if not, I don't get to play, you know?
So I asked you this question when we were at the hotel in Baltimore earlier this year, and I had thought about this. Jon Lester, of course, turning point for the Cubs organization when they signed him to a $155 million deal. And when that happened, they also made the point of signing you to a contract with the Cubs. And I said, have you and John ever, because you have a great relationship, I said, have you and John ever talked about who made who more money?
Yeah, that's a
And
good question. It's definitely he's made me more money than I've made him. What a career he's had. But um, all joking aside, I've thanked him so many times for the things he's done for me, and his agents were pushing me because he had a lot of success for me when we were both free agents, and we worked well together. And the numbers speak for themselves. But I think it goes beyond that, and he's such a good human. He gave me a private plane to fly home when my grandma passed away, and also when my ex-wife went into a emergency C-section. Just like just he's an amazing human, and he's definitely he extended my career. I think I ended my last year in Boston in 14. I hit like a buck 80. I was awful, and next thing you know, I got a 2-year deal in Chicago because of him. So I definitely got to give the lean to him. He's made me way more money than I've made him.
you had an amazing run with the Chicago Cubs, but that probably doesn't happen if not your past relationship with Jon.
Well, and all the things I got to do after that, right? Just getting lifted up, being on I was able to do a little bit of TV with ESPN, but that helped boost my career, my resume, and all the speaking engagements I've been able to do. Just a lot managing,
Dancing with the Stars,
managing, like all the fun stuff just took my career to a different level because of the Chicago team, and that wouldn't happen without Jon.
Yeah. All right, Rossi. Well, thank you. I would love if you ever, if you and Jon are ever in the same place as me, I'd love to sit by and to be the fly on the wall for that conversation.
We need to do that. We need to
Right.
do that.
Thanks for joining us.
You got it, Buster. Thanks for having me, man. I'll see you tonight.
That was the weekly guest brought to you by 8 Sleep, the smart mattress cover trusted by some of baseball's greatest. Use code BASEBALL tonight for up to $500 off. Hembo is Paul Mbakidis, a researcher at ESPN, content producer on the show Get Up, and he joins us every week to talk baseball. Hembo, you're part of what is sort of an old school baggage claim on this case on Tuesday, because I'm at the airport in Minneapolis at gate C3. I'm sure you passed through here quite a bit. If you want to know, the flight to Fargo is heading off in a little while.
Buster, I'm just here basking in the glow of the assuredness that we're not really at the risk of losing baseball as our national pastime and it being supplanted by soccer after the way in which the United States acquitted itself against Belgium in that 4-1 laugher, an outcome that, of course, has our good friend Taylor Schwenk still apoplectic, as it seems. And so I think we'll be able to move on just fine. But I don't think we're necessarily all that worried about soccer supplanting baseball anytime soon after that most recent showing.
Wow. I think we're going to have to soothe them with some baseball talk. I mean, you're just poking the bear right there because you heard him coming in here.
I sure did.
All right, let's dive into it. So the Los Angeles Dodgers, the overriding storyline coming into the year was, can any team unseat the Dodgers' preeminence in baseball after back-to-back championships? So far, the answer is no. They're on a pace to win well over 100 games. Shohei Ohtani's rolling, and this is without Blake Snell. It's without Tyler Glasnow. They've been in without Edwin Diaz, their closer. They are pursuing a third straight championship. What do you got?
Well, whether you watch the Dodgers or you watch the Dodgers, you watch the Dodgers. And I'm not expecting most of the people within the sound of my voice to enjoy the numbers that I'm about to spew as to the historic nature of what this team is trying to do from the perspective of three-peating. But you and I love the history of baseball. And right now we're watching history unfold every night when the Dodgers play, Buster. The numbers are these. Through the 90-game mark, the Dodgers are 59-31. I discovered that was the best record through 90 games by a back-to-back World Series champ since the Yankees in 1954.
Wow.
Buster, their run differential of plus 166 is the best one through 90 games by a back-to-back champion since the Yankees in 1939. You and I both know that is among the greatest teams in the history of baseball. And there are a couple other elements to this team that are extraordinarily remarkable to me, one of which you just mentioned. And of course, it's the fact that they're not anywhere close to whole. They lead the major leagues in games missed on the injured list. They've gotten less than one full win above replacement from Kyle Tucker and Edwin Diaz, despite paying them nearly $80 million. And the most remarkable thing of all to me, Buster, is the manner in which they continue to reinvent themselves. 2 years ago, in 2024, they win the World Series with one of the 5 best lineups of any team to ever win the World Series from the perspective of their regular season batting line. Fast forward to last year, their starting pitchers go on this otherworldly bender in September and October to enable them to win the World Series. And so, of course, this year, they have the best defense in Major League Baseball. They've gone from 11th last year to 1st in defensive efficiency. Mookie Betts is playing shortstop like a Gold Glover. Andy Pages could legitimately challenge Pete Crow Armstrong as the Gold Glove winner among center fielders in the National League. These guys just keep finding ways to get better. It's really not supposed to be this easy. But look, I'm, as best I can, enjoying the ride because we're watching truly one of the greatest baseball teams of all time at the peak of their powers.
You're talking about the defense. The other day when Dave Roberts was giving the presentation to all the Dodgers about who was an all-star, he talked about Andy Pages. He saved Andy for last. in terms of presenting him to the room because, guys like Shohei and Freddie Freeman, they've been there, done that, right? So they talked about Andy Pages, and Dave Roberts said people said he couldn't play center field. And you're right. I mean, the advanced metrics right now for Pages in center are excellent. And I can, there are times in the past, in the recent past, when the question was, hey, who can we put out there that's serviceable? And now Andy Pages is doing a lot better. And it'll be interesting to see what they do before the trade deadline as well. When the new stolen base rules are put into place with the bigger bases, with the rules about throw.
今回の場面は単なるサインの食い違いではありません。セーバーメトリクスが重視される現代でも投手と捕手の信頼関係は数字だけでは測れないからです。防御率や1回あたりの走者許容数が良くても、守備から独立した投手評価に乱れがあれば配球を見直す必要があります。大谷翔平の投球設計は、速球を軸にスイーパーとカッターの機動差を使い、打者の目線と振りを崩すことにあります。その意図を理解せず、球種だけを選べば、本来の強みは引き出せません。ラッシングに必要なのは大谷に従うことではなく、なぜその球を投げたいのかを理解することです。必要なら、自分の根拠を示して意見を返さなければなりません。自動判定への異議申し立てが広がれば、捕手の価値は捕球技術だけでなく、事前準備、配球士、運営、修正力では駆られるようになります。さらにドジャースは、故障者リストから戻る投手の登板間隔や球数も管理しなければならず、目先の結果だけでは判断できません。それでも大谷が打者として高い出塁力と長打力を保ち、投手として勝利貢献度を積み上げれば、サイ・ヤング賞級の投球と最優秀選手級の打撃を同時に求められる存在になります。今回の衝突は、関係が壊れた証拠ではなく、強いバッテリーが生まれる前段階かもしれません。皆さんは配球の最終判断を大谷が握るべきだと思いますか？それとも捕手に任せるべきだと思いますか？最後までご視聴いただき、ありがとうございました。大谷とラッシングの配球をめぐる主導権は、どちらに託すべきだと思いますか？ぜひコメントでお聞かせください。これからもドジャースと MLB の真相をお届けします。チャンネル登録と高評価もよろしくお願いします。